thegearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Hey, this is AC Loke. You're checking out the All Bets Are Off podcast with Robbie Vegas.
What's up, rock soldiers? This is the rockstar Robbie Vegas bringing you another episode of the All Bets Are Off podcast. Today, my guest is Garrett Holiday. I met Garrett on the indie wrestling scene years ago. We reconnected just recently at Excite Wrestling in the Johnson City, New York area. Garrett is an awesome guy to have in the locker room, a great worker in the ring, and just an all-around good dude. So it was only a matter of time before he found his way to the All Bets Are Off podcast, so I thank you for joining us today. Before we get into that interview, just your weekly reminder to follow us on all social media platforms that we are available on, which is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ABAOPod. Also, be sure to subscribe to us if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on everything, so hit that subscribe button, get alerts when we drop new episodes. Leave us a good review. 5-star reviews help us out greatly with the algorithm when we're popping up for new listeners. And all that being said, let's get this interview rolling.
Hey guys, I'm Ashers.
And I'm Pat O.
And every Wednesday we talk weird.
It's a weekly podcast bringing you the latest in
cryptozoology,
ufology,
conspiracies,
the occult,
and all the latest in 40 news. Everything from the ooky to the spooky.
It's like Coast to Coast AM for people who fuck.
Search for On Wednesdays We Talk Weird anywhere you get podcasts. See you guys next Wednesday.
So Garrett, first thing I want to do is thank you for being here for your very first time on the All Bets Are Off podcast, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm happy to have you here, and I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, man, I was looking forward to this all week, and thank you for having me, of course.
Anytime. You have an open invitation on this podcast, so if you ever have anything to talk about, you let me know.
Absolutely.
So let's start back at the beginning for you. How and what made you a wrestling fan?
Okay, so obviously the Monday Night Wars was definitely a part of it. So when I was like 5 years old, I was watching WWF, and me and my mom were switching channels back and forth. But when the first time we switched to WCW, Bill Goldberg was the first guy I seen. Okay. I know some people have different opinions about Goldberg, but Goldberg was the guy that was just like so awesome to me, you know. Mm-hmm. Behind the scenes, I guess, not so much. But like, he was facing Hugh Morris, so it was pretty much early in the beginning of his streak. Mm-hmm. But like the snarl, the look that he had, and he was just, you know, he's a big guy. So I immediately drew myself to him, and that's pretty much when I wanted to be a professional wrestler.
How old were you about then?
5.
Okay. 5. So, was your mom a wrestling fan, or was she just watching it for you?
She was pretty much just watching it for me, and she was also a big Bill Goldberg fan right after that.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, so, I mean, afterwards, she didn't really watch it too much. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was really into it, and she would remind me when it was on, you know. I didn't know which day was what, so.
So how do you discover indie wrestling?
Pretty much when I discovered indie wrestling was when I wanted to start training. Mm. So originally when I was going to full-fledged go after it, a place called In Your Face Wrestling, which is no longer alive anymore for quite some time. Mm-hmm. I originally wanted to just go there, see how it was, and, you know, see if this is really what I wanted to do. And then obviously indie wrestling came a part of that. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed it. I really did. It was, I believe that night Tommy Dreamer was on the show. Mm. And pretty much I liked it, and the way that it ran there back then was huge storyline based. So like Tommy Dreamer was going to be back. Like they were able to, like, you know, afford Tommy Dreamer, and then later on, Just Incredible was a part of it. Rhino was a part of it. And, you know, they made it a huge storyline for their big, you know, like their big show of the year. And it was pretty cool. And I actually got to be security during that huge match that they did, because I signed up to become a wrestler. I was training, and then obviously I did my my dues by being security for that show.
So what year was this about?
So that was about 2014.
Okay, so around when I had met you, it wasn't that far after that then, right?
No. So it was so I started in 2014, early 2014. So it's about like January, February.
Mm-hmm.
I seen the show in January. I started in February. And pretty much right after that, it was like 4 months in, Drake Evans trained me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to, usually they hold you for a year, but they allowed me to go with Drake and, go to shows and stuff like that. So pretty much it started off slow for me at first, but eventually I think it was about 2015 or 2016 when I met you.
That's what I thought. Now, when you first started on this journey and you started training, was Mom supportive?
Nobody really likes to see their baby boy get hurt. So it's just like, they were okay with it. Originally, I wanted to go into the military and stuff like that. They didn't really like that too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I understood that, and at that time, I second thought it because the world wasn't really that great around that time. So I wasn't going to do that. But they'd rather see me do that, and my other option was MMA, which definitely was not so.
You threw a lot of curveballs at him.
Oh yeah. I wanted to do something with my life. I didn't want to, not that there's anything wrong with regular life or anything like that. I just wanted to be something. And like I said, at 5 years old, I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And at one point I wanted to play football.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the high school that I went in didn't have a football team. So I was going to try to go to college and play football and stuff like that. And it never worked out. And, I had doubters, and I let those doubters get to me. Never went to college, unfortunately. And then, I was like, nobody's stopping me from being a professional wrestler. So I took the ball and I ran with it, and I'm here now. At 8 years, going on 9 years.
That's amazing. And now, so you're 5 years old, you like Goldberg, you're like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. Who were some of your favorites when you first started, aside from Goldberg, and who was inspiring you when you started training?
Ooh, good questions. So, like, getting into training, it was a mixture.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll give you the levels of when I first started training. I was a John Cena fan.
Mm-hmm.
Entertainment-wise, I was a John Cena fan.
Of course.
A little bit of CM Punk. I didn't want to deep dive into CM Punk because back then in 2014, everybody loved CM Punk.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it was one of those things. And then to get out of the WWE, I actually really liked TNA. So I was actually a big AJ Styles fan.
Oh, okay.
So I really looked up to AJ Styles back then.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kazarians, James Storm was another one. Bobby Roode was actually a pretty cool character for me, but I was hugely an AJ Styles fan. Just the amount of stuff that he could do.
Oh yeah.
And when I actually really started to understand professional wrestling, I understood why he is so great.
That's amazing. And what's funny too is so this is in, you said 2014 you're training?
Yeah.
AJ Styles was amazing then, and he's amazing right now. Like the man has never, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like he's changed, but he hasn't changed, if that even makes sense. He's just keeps growing. It's insane.
Yeah, he hasn't even lost a step.
No,
it's so amazing. Like, and when he originally, I knew it was going to be really good when he left TNA, and the way that he left TNA, it made him look so big. It wasn't even funny, even though he lost.
Yeah,
he still was a big factor in the way that he left. And then I totally thought he was going to go to the WWE, and he didn't. He went to Japan, or I'm sorry, he went to the Indies, and then he went to Japan. Or you can go back and forth on that because he did a little bit of both. But
yeah,
like, I really like New Japan Pro Wrestling. unfortunately, I don't have like, you know, the account for said promotion or anything like that.
Yeah.
I did watch a lot of his stuff from New Japan. You know, if there was not a site for free, but sometimes YouTube gives out freebies that you can see. And when he was in ROH was great too. And it's just like when you go from those places and then you jump right to WWE and you don't even have to go to NXT to build up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that says something. And the way that he entered was so great.
Yeah.
He went right into a program with John Cena. You know, that says a lot.
It does. Now, when you start training, does it change your outlook on wrestling as far as the guys that you were inspired by or who you were paying closer attention to? Or did you kind of always have the same taste no matter what?
It definitely changed the way that I looked at wrestling in general.
Mm-hmm.
In a good way.
Yeah.
I understood a lot more reasons why professionals do things the way that they do and how they do it, per se. Like, I can understand why AJ Styles is probably one of the greatest wrestlers in today's wrestling. It's because he can literally just do everything. I understand why John Cena is probably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. It's because he can read a crowd without even having to go out through the entrance. You know, Triple H was another, you know, awesome wrestler that understood what he had to do in order to be a top heel in the game. You know, I in a way, it made me respect them more at how they excelled in their wrestling careers, and pretty much everybody's wrestling careers.
Yeah. No, I gotta ask you then. So, do you see a big difference between how the wrestling business was when you broke in as to now?
Oh, there's a big difference.
What do you see? Like, what stands out to you as far as differences?
Are we talking indie wrestling or just wrestling in general?
Both, whatever you see.
You know, it didn't take me much to figure this out, but a lot of wrestling today, and I'm not even talking about WWE, there's not a lot of stories in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of, you know, and I'm, like I said, I'm only 8-9 years in, and this is not a shot at anybody. This is, you know, this is just the way that it is. Everything has to evolve, but there really is no stories in the ring unless you can literally see them. A lot of, you know, spot matches have their moments inside of a card, and I truly believe in that because honestly, that's how I started. I was a spot monkey, you know. But then I truly understood that a story in a ring can be much more beneficial than just hitting 50 moves in one match in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of guys out there that are, you know, they just want to hit their moves and then go home. Mm-hmm. They have the absolute ability to tell a story in the match, and sometimes they just don't want to, and that's fine. That's up to them. That's their career. Mm-hmm. I'd rather bump less than, you know, than
that makes two of us.
Yeah, I'd rather tell a story than you know, bump 50 times. Like I said, there's times in a story that you sometimes can bump 50 times in a match, but you know, I'd rather not.
Yeah,
you know, I did that earlier on in my career, and I'm just like, I'd rather tell a story, man. Like, yeah, let's do it.
100%, 100%. So in the last 8-9 years that you've been wrestling, well, first take us back. You told us about, you know, your security spots, pay your dues. What was your first match like?
My first match was it was okay. You know, at that time I had a lot of trouble remembering stuff. Mm-hmm. So obviously your first match, you have flubs.
Yes.
And, I think on my first match, you know, in front of a live audience, I think you know, obviously it was a small time show, so it was about maybe 15, 20 people. So it wasn't that much. And, you know, people told me you'd rather have it here than in front of 500 to 1,000 people.
Right.
500 to 1,000 people.
Right.
So like I said, it wasn't that big of a mistake, but, you know, I forgot something and I looked like a deer in headlights, and then I got clobbered for a minute, and then it went on. But I was like 160 pounds then.
Yeah.
So it was just like I was doing high flying stuff when I, compared to now, I barely leave my feet.
Right. Yeah. No, that is a huge difference. Now,
Yeah.
so since your first match to now, who would you consider some of your favorite opponents over the years?
So I had a few, and let me just say this: from 2014 to 2016 was my slowest years,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't until I hit 2017 to about now, I was out and about and hitting the roads and stuff like that, and I was trying to make a name for myself. And I thought I did at one point, and then it just kind of like, it went mild. But if I could definitely say some of my favorite people were Mike Skyros, the Moonlight Sun. Definitely brought a lot of stuff out of me, and I honestly think that we brought a lot of stuff out of each other. And we grew together.
Yeah.
There were some things that he can learn off of me, and there was things that I can learn off of him. But at the same time, we grew together, and right now he's on top of his game. I'll put him over any day of the week. Another guy that literally made me believe that I can actually do this to my toppest tier of my ability is Sean Carr.
Oh yeah.
I have faced that man I forgot how many times we were facing each other, but I think 6 total that I have faced him. And every single match I learned and I soaked in every single bit of what we had going. And those are 6 times in 6 different promotions.
Oh, wow.
And we literally, if we were not match of the night, we were match of the year, a candidate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And Sean Carr literally brought everything out of me. And it wasn't even the same match. Like, we even had a match that we couldn't even do anything off the top rope. You couldn't even do a suplex without hitting the roof. And it's just like, and that was in front of maybe 50 people, but by the end of it, it sounded like we were in front of 150 to 200 people.
Wow. Yeah, Sean is one of a kind, huh?
Oh my God, yeah. I'll put him over any day of the week. And I would also say, besides, Skyros and Carr, one of my other favorite matches was with Dan Barry.
Okay.
And Dirty Dango was definitely my favorite.
Yeah, we have that one in common.
Yeah. I remember you facing him too.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a big learning experience facing Dango, as you would know.
Oh yeah.
A guy coming from the big time and just showing you how simple it is and how less you can do and still get that crowd to react the way that they do. As if, we just did like a 450 splash off of a freaking top of the cage. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even hit a top rope move.
Yes.
I've had some favorites, and I'm probably forgetting a couple. But if I had to say it, those were definitely defining moments in my career that I actually really enjoy and really love and really appreciate.
I mean, that's a great list, honestly. And just to build onto that, do you have any people on a list that you haven't faced yet, but you really want to?
There's plenty. It just depends on where you want to start.
Well, let's. Why don't you give me your top few? Just throw a couple names out there.
LSG, Leon San Giovanni. Another one was Anthony Green. Anthony Green was definitely another one.
Oh yeah.
He was very kind to me earlier in my career, and he's still kind to me now. And I really appreciate that big time. Besides LSG and besides Anthony Green, it's kind of funny because Jacob Fatu is a guy that I want to face.
Oh, okay. So would you consider those 3 guys your top 3? Like, you really want to check those off?
Oh, yeah. Like, those 3 guys are... I know Jacob Fatu is probably going to end up signed somewhere eventually.
Yeah.
But LSG and... Anthony Green would probably benefit me a lot just on a learning basis, because those guys absolutely know how to kill it in a match. It'll be a banger of a match, and I'm at a point in my career where I definitely want to learn every aspect of everything that I can possibly learn, and I'm also at that time in my career where I would love to learn it and then pass it down, because guys like them, they're already passing it down, but they're still at the top of their career.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. Well, let's keep building on that then. So we talked about your favorite opponents. We talked about opponents that you'd like to have. What about a bucket list of things that you want to accomplish in this business?
So obviously everybody wants to become, signed to a big company like WWE, TNA, New Japan. I would be okay with New Japan Pro Wrestling, to be honest with you.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, if I never got an invite to go to the WWE or TNA or I'm sorry, Impact at this point.
Yeah.
MLW would be a pretty cool experience too. But New Japan, I guess, in a way, is a lot more of an honor thing for me. And I've always said that. But I've always said, I'll go wherever my career takes me, but definitely New Japan Pro Wrestling. If I was ever to go there and that was it, I would be totally satisfied.
How about as far as promotions you've worked for already? Do you have any that are at the top of your list of some favorites?
Favorite promotions?
Yeah, that you've already worked for.
That I've already worked for. Texas Strength Wrestling is one of my favorites.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been there in a while, but definitely one of my favorites. Excite Wrestling is another one of my favorites. That's a place that I hold pretty close to my heart, only because they were one of the first ones to give me a shot. And when I tell you I had to earn that shot, it's not like a lie. I literally, from paying dues, ring crews, staying up until 1 a.m. and I didn't even get home until 4 a.m. That was a long 3 years before I actually started to do something. So I hold Excite near and dear to my heart. Mortal Championship Wrestling is another place that gave me an opportunity, and I'm killing it there, I believe, in my opinion. Top Rope Promotions in Fall River, Massachusetts is a place that I really like to wrestle in because it's a different place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like Killer Kowalski territory, and that's a different style than what I was used to, and it brought something in me to do something to get outside of the box and actually do some old school stuff, because that's all it takes. And to learn from guys from the New England area is definitely something that I cherish a lot.
So, just real quick, I was just listening to how you mentioned the old school style. What, just for our listeners who aren't in the business, what do you mean by that?
The old school style?
Yeah.
It's old school to me is you don't have to do a 450 off the top rope. It's more to me it's a brawl or technical wrestling or just listening to the crowd and actually even not calling anything and going out there. And doing your thing and trying to react to the crowd the way that you should and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. That to me is old school way. And you don't have to win with a finisher. It can be a roll up victory. It can be so much as even like a body slam with a senton. And you can be done, and they eat that alive. I remember there was, I forgot what the name of the actual show was, but it's something roulette, and they put your name on a little tag, and then they put it in a bucket, and the fans, not the announcer, the fans take it, and they make the match. So they take your names, like say Garrett Holiday. They pick up that name. They announce you. You go out, and another fan takes a completely different fan takes another tag, and that other wrestler comes out, and you have no time to talk. You have no time to come up with anything.
Oh wow!
And you literally have to go based off of your ability to go in there and call it in the ring.
Wow, That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, like that was definitely one of the coolest things that I think I've done in a long time.
That's really interesting. I've never heard of that actually being a legit thing.
Yeah, and that that's just thinking outside of the box, and for certain companies,
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of cool things that are so different than just regular companies do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's no shot to any other companies. That's just them thinking outside of the box and them coming up with something that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
you
of course.
And you really learn off of it. So
I'm sure. Well, you have no choice.
yeah, literally. And to be honest with you, I was actually pretty nervous. It was like one of my first times. Not one of my first times. I've done it before, but it was like I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
So it was just like, when you get your name called and you're like, oh boy, all right, here we go. And it's almost like your first match all over again.
Yeah, really. Jeez. So, as far as wrestling in general, do you have like a timeline for yourself? Like, how long do you want to be doing this? How long, do you have an age where you're going to stop doing it, or what's your plan as far as longevity goes?
Well, that's a question that I always try to tell myself, but I was told this once, and I actually will say it kind of like what he did. When you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a timeline for it. I really love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when the time comes, I'll know. But I'm not willing to give it up unless I feel like I have accomplished something. And I'm not at that point right now. I'm 30 years old, and I'm obviously we don't get younger, and obviously with wrestling, you kind of,
Yeah.
But I still feel like I can be something in this business, and whether anybody believes it or not, I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to try to achieve anything that I can. So as far as like timeline, if I had to say, obviously 40 years old would probably be like the end for me. Like if I'm still doing it by then and I haven't been anywhere, I also said that I'm not going to take up a spot. At that point, somebody else has to take my spot.
I got you.
I will be glad to give it up at that point.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. So now we're going to do something completely different, all right? This has nothing to do with your career or wrestling, really. Maybe a tiny bit in there somewhere, but this is the lightning round. I'm going to ask you some this or that, and you're just going to let me know.
Okay.
You can explain it if you want. You don't have to. Totally your thing.
Okay.
All right, so first question. As far as pizza goes, Chicago or New York style?
New York.
All right, if you had the choice between a hut on the beach or a cabin in the woods, where are you going?
Oh, cabin in the woods, baby.
Yeah, I'd take that too. So, let's see, horror movies or action movies?
I am a big action guy.
I had a feeling that you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite action movie you can rip off the top of your head?
Ooh, I have so many, but John Wick is my favorite.
Okay, cool. Next question, lift weights or cardio?
I wish I could say both, but if I had to choose, I would say lift.
Okay. All right, this one might take you a second, but we'll see. Favorite WrestleMania?
Oh.
Yeah.
How many are we at now?
39.
If I had to be more specific, it would be WrestleMania 3.
Okay. You can't go wrong with that one. Doritos or Funyuns?
Doritos.
And last one, Raw or SmackDown?
Raw.
All right, my man. Thank you so much for being here. That's all I got for you today, but this was a lot of fun, dude.
Absolutely. I would be totally willing to do this again for sure, my man, if you'd have me.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to come on, I don't even care if you want to come on and just talk shit about your opponent coming up. I don't care. You just let me know. But
absolutely.
Before
Can I put a shameless plug in here?
I was just gonna tell you could now go off and plug whatever you wanted to plug. So go for it.
All right. So I don't know exactly when this audio clip is going to come out, but April 28th, I'll be in Invictus Pro Wrestling with my tag partner Brute Van Slyke Hired Gun Inc. versus Fight or Die in the Bronx, New York. First time being in Bronx. Hell yeah. We are facing the tag team champs. That's going to be a great match. We are going to have an old school match, also a brawling match, which is going to be great.
All right.
April 29th, Immortal Championship Wrestling. I will be in Rome, New York, facing Siren Rain for my ICW Northeast Championship.
Beautiful.
May, I believe it's 6th, because you're on that same show, I believe.
I'm on the 5th.
You're on the 5th.
Yes.
All right, so I guess I'll rock out in May 6th in Excite Wrestling in Johnson City. I am facing the returning Mark House, and May 27th, I will be in Oneida with New Pro Wrestling. It's me and Brew Van Slyke again versus Edge of Hope.
Oh, wow. Okay. You got some good stuff coming up, man. And you can't leave yet, because you got to tell the listeners where they could follow you on social media so that they can keep up with everything that you're doing in the future beyond the dates that you just gave us.
Absolutely. Regular Facebook, you can follow me at Garrett Holiday. It's a like page. I'm pretty good with posting on that. Twitter, I believe it is at Holiday Garrett, and on Instagram it's at all lowercase Garrett Holiday.
All right, man. Well, then that wraps it up for us, and I truly appreciate you being here.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you for having me.
All right, rockers, once again, that was Garrett Holiday. Make sure you're following him on social media. Keep up with what he's got going on in the world of independent wrestling. Thank you for joining us on the All Bets Are Off podcast, and we will see you next week.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.